of you to strip down to your underwear. Now.
Dalton Russell appears on camera, confidently claiming he pulled off a precise Wall Street bank heist and walked out the front door without being caught. The only question left, how did he do it? Dalton and his crew drive up to the Manhattan Trust Bank. Dalton steps inside first, instantly taking down everyone in sight. Their carefully planned scheme turns the guards and patrons into targets in mere seconds.
Get your hand away from that button! Put your hands on the floor, now! Keep your head down, fat man!
All right! Bullet in the brain.
A cop approaches the bank as smoke rises. Before he can finish his call, Dalton appears, claiming he is the hostage and warning that anyone who comes near will be killed. The officer immediately calls for backup. The entire police team rushes to the scene, quickly assessing the situation, securing positions, and protecting the area while locking down the whole street. Meanwhile, Arthur, the owner of the Manhattan Trust Fund, is informed that his bank branch is under attack with hostages inside. The news pushes the situation to the breaking point. Arthur immediately calls Meline White, a powerful broker, to secure the family heirloom stored in the bank's safe. She sets a rule: if Arthur reveals the contents of the safe, even though he doesn't have to, and lies about keeping the secret, the deal is void. Arthur neither tells the truth nor lies. He only wants to ensure that the secret items in the safe are either kept secure or completely gone. Meline agrees to work with Arthur. Meanwhile, two other key figures appear: Detectives Fraser and Mitchell from the hostage negotiation team. Fraser is a seasoned cop, far smarter than most, but an internal issue hangs over him, possibly implicating him. As he pushes forward relentlessly, the detectives rush to the bank, get into a police vehicle, and brief Captain Darius, the officer in charge of the scene. Fraser tells Darius that no one knows the number of suspects or hostages inside the bank. He demands control of the scene and expects a summary from Darius as soon as more details are available. Meanwhile, he and his partner take a brief dinner break. Inside the bank, the robbers lead the hostages down to the vault room, line them up, and separate them into bank employees and others. Dalton orders the hostages to remove their keys and phones from their pockets or bags and hold them up for his crew to collect. A bank employee refuses to hand over his phone, claiming he left it at home. Dalton doesn't believe him. He finds the employee's number on another phone and calls, discovering the real phone was left in the office. Dalton drags the man into the office and beats him brutally, using him as an example for the others. When he leaves the room, Dalton is covered in blood. A man hands him a set of keys, and a boy points out a gaming console that Dalton orders to be kept. Next, Dalton shuffled the hostages again, making them line up by gender, and ordered everyone to remove their underwear except for an elderly woman. She was taken to another room by Dalton's female accomplice, while he instructed the remaining hostages to put on the suits and masks they had been given. Later, an elderly bank employee among the hostages began feeling unwell and said he had a heart condition. Dalton and one of his associates let him go, and the police immediately forced him to kneel. He explained that he had been sent outside to warn them that if anyone approached the bank, he would throw out 2 dead bodies. The robbers checked the remaining hostages and moved through the bank, past the vault and safe deposit boxes, finally stopping in a back room with office supplies. Later, they were seen preparing the room, digging under the floor. Darius found Fraser and Mitchell and told them about the man the robbers had released. The man said he believed there were 4 criminals in the bank. Darius also informed the detectives how he was managing the perimeter, that he was waiting for the bank's video footage from the start of the robbery, and that all the bank phones had been redirected. Darius's part was complete, leaving Fraser to decide the next step. The detective decided it wasn't the right time to call the robber, wanting to see what he would do next. Mitchell found the robber's truck, planning to use it to cover for prints, even though it might have been stolen. When Fraser finally called the bank, Dalton let the phone ring without answering. The police reviewed security footage and saw how the robbers managed to evade everyone, suspecting they had used infrared lights to do it. Suddenly, the police noticed movement in front of the bank, while Meline met with the mayor of New York to request help with an important matter. She explained that she was monitoring the hostages in the bank for a client and asked to enter alongside the police to carry out her task. The mayor initially refused, but after Meline insisted, he agreed to assist her. The robbers released another hostage with a message for the police, tying him up as they expected. They noticed he was sick, but mistook him for an Arab terrorist and disrespected his religion by forcing him to remove his turban. He was handled roughly, and later appeared at a diner where Frazier and others questioned him about what he had seen. The psych man was very angry and had to be persuaded before he revealed what had happened inside. He confirmed that the criminals were foreign and said there were about 20 to 30 hostages. The police then read the demands sent with the hostage. The robbers requested 2 buses and a large jet to be delivered before 9 p.m. If the police missed the deadline, they threatened to kill 1 hostage every hour. The bank was also rigged with plastic explosives. Darius said they could not get a plane, but the buses might be possible. Frazier told them that, until they spoke with him, they would receive nothing, not even a cup of coffee. Suddenly, the cases were brought into the truck, asking if he could help, and about the robbers' demand for a jet. The elderly man asked if they wanted him to arrange one for them. They were surprised that he wanted to stay and monitor the situation, but he was eventually escorted out of the truck. The robbers requested food to be brought in, giving the police a chance to eavesdrop on their conversations. The officer in charge of surveillance suggested using pizza so everyone would gather around and talk more. When Frazier asked about the special listening device, she explained it was a digital recorder capable of capturing up to 30 seconds of material. Meanwhile, one hostage acted tough, prompting the robbers to remind him about the bank supervisor and lead him through the rooms with the other hostages, finally placing him in the office supply room. When the final food order was delivered, Frazier supervised the delivery and introduced himself to Dalton, trying to get the robber to open up and say he wanted to talk if he answered the phone. Dalton remained silent. Later, they heard sounds from inside the bank and realized the robbers were speaking a different language, likely Russian. Frazier sent Mitchell to ask the hostages if they had heard Russian or a Russian accent while inside the bank. The robbers created a scenario with the hostages, moving one into another room. One robber pretended she was also a hostage and returned to the first room. When the other robber brought her to a room, he seized another female hostage and moved her to a third room. Later, the actual female robber was seen digging a hole. In the supply room, a Russian-born officer listened to the tape and identified the language as Russian, though the closest he could relate to was Bulgarian, which he called a Central European language. Frazier came up with the idea to play the recording over speakers to see if anyone outside could recognize the language. A construction worker identified it as Albanian because his ex-wife was born there and provided the information. The police tried contacting the Albanian consulate but got nowhere, so Frazier asked the worker to call his ex-wife. When the woman arrived, she saw helping them as an opportunity to get a parking ticket dismissed. Frazier asked her to listen to the recording and explain its content. She laughed, saying she not only knew what they were talking about, but also who was speaking. The police were thrilled to identify the real speaker. The woman repeated her request to dismiss the ticket before answering. Once she got the response she wanted, she revealed it was the voice of the former Albanian communist president. Verhaxa realized it was just a random recording, as the robbers, knowing they were being monitored, had changed the game for the police. In scattered footage from the bank, Dalton was seen around the vault and the money, making his presence there seem suspicious. Later, he and an associate opened another safe containing documents, diamonds, and small bags in a jewelry box. Dalton took the documents while the other man closed the box. At the same time, the mayor and Meline arrived at the bank to speak with Detective Frazier. They were introduced, and Meline quickly gave a brief account of why she was there. Frazier reluctantly accepted her help. Meline and the mayor used some old-fashioned pressure tactics to persuade him. Finally, Dalton answered the phone and spoke with Frazier, but the conversation went nowhere. Dalton only repeated the demands and threatened to kill hostages if they weren't met within his set time frame. The same happened in a later call. Frazier tried to pressure Dalton to buy more time, unaware that someone was manipulating him. He gave Dalton some additional food while Dalton requested a sandwich. Meanwhile, the robbers finished digging a hole in the supply room, preparing for a crucial part of their heist. After Frazier called Dalton, he allowed Meline to speak with him. She convinced Dalton that they should communicate directly. Frazier escorted Meline to the bank, worried she might get lost, but she explained she had arrived with the help of friends, not enemies. At the bank, Meline offered a short prison sentence and $2 million upon his release in exchange for the contents of the safe deposit box. Dalton clearly knew who Meline was working for, and he also knew that Case had been a Nazi collaborator in Switzerland during World War II. She only asked to see the safety deposit box, urging him to show her what he found, and told him he could keep it as insurance so if he got caught for the robbery, she and her boss would help him get out. When Meline left the bank, she casually spoke with Fraser, saying she had given Dalton another offer that he was considering. Fraser asked her opinion of Dalton, and Meline said he was smart and not a killer. Later, 3 police officers discussed Dalton, trying to figure him out. Fraser decided to change tactics and stop following the book, suspecting Dalton knew every step they would take. He called Dalton and said he would provide the jet if allowed to enter the bank and check on the hostages first. Dalton agreed. In the next scene, Fraser entered the bank and was led to the hostage room. He saw that everyone was alive and well, though the boy was denied leaving with him when he asked. Before leaving, Fraser promised to get all the hostages out. Fraser confronted Dalton and warned him about the tactical team waiting outside, but Dalton outmaneuvered him. At the door, Fraser struggled to remove the mask, but another person stopped him in time. Dalton grew angry and requested a bus again. He then went to the supply room and asked a colleague how long it would take to finish. The colleague said, about 2 to 3 hours. Fraser returned to the truck and told Darius that Dalton was not a killer and they should wait to see what he would do. When he called back and instructed them to aim the camera at the window, they would see Dalton pointing a gun at a hostage and killing him on camera. As a result, Fraser was dismissed, and Darius took over command. Darius planned to get the tactical team in as soon as possible, but entering the bank became a tactical nightmare with consequences that were hard to manage. The only solution was to use rubber bullets to ensure no one was killed. Mitchell thought that if another incident occurred, Fraser would become the scapegoat. However, Fraser said he had made a deal with Meline and would suddenly be promoted to first-class detective. Before Darius stormed the bank, Fraser discovered the robbers had been eavesdropping on them through a device in a drawer and called the captain to report it. Darius decided to act. When Dalton realized, they threw smoke grenades and led the hostages out before the police could enter. As soon as the hostages were outside, the tactical team subdued and arrested everyone. They entered the bank to recover the money or look for bodies, checking all rooms, vaults, and the supply room, but found nothing. Fraser, Mitchell, and Darius went down, and the tactical team leader reported that no bodies were found and nothing had been taken from the bank. The police realized that the weapons were just toys and the threat to the hostages was a ruse. The hostages and all the robbers were taken to the police station for questioning. No one knew who was a hostage or a robber. Later, the captain informed Fraser that the case was closed. Fraser was surprised but remained determined not to let it go. The captain said their issues had been resolved. Fraser discovered a clue about the bank's secret safe and began piecing everything together. He met with Meline again and played her the recording of her and the mayor extorting him. To keep the recording, Fraser asked her to provide information about Case's safe deposit box. She only hinted to him but told him to ignore it. Later, Meline met with Case and said that Fraser was no longer an issue, but Dalton would keep the documents in the box as a safeguard against his revenge. Meline knew the safe contained diamonds along with some documents. Case added that there was also a Cartier ring belonging to some Jewish friends he hadn't saved from the Nazis because they had paid too generously. He paid her before she left, and she pretended not to judge him. A week after the heist, Dalton appeared, revealing how he carried out the robbery. He had hidden inside the bank using a trick while they were working in the supply room. Dalton took the diamonds, ring, and documents, broke through the hidden wall, and emerged as if he were just another customer. All his accomplices were waiting for him outside the bank. Fraser and Mitchell arrived. Dalton bumped into Fraser as he was leaving the bank but didn't recognize him. Fraser entered the bank under a court order to open a safe deposit box. Inside, he found chewing gum, a Cartier ring, and a note instructing him to follow the ring. Detectives came to talk to Case. Fraser asked about the box, suspecting it was connected to something bad. Case tried to avoid the questions, but Fraser showed him the ring and said that once he investigated further, he would understand what the bad thing was. After the police left, they smiled, knowing the case was on track. Fraser interrupted Meline and went to the mayor's lunch to show her the ring and give her the phone number of the War Crimes Office in Washington, D.C. He also handed her a pen with a recorded message. They had taken down a fascist, a powerful broker, and a distant mayor. The only thing left for Frazier was to go home and be with his wife. In the final scene, he finds a diamond that Dalton had left in his pocket when they accidentally met at the bank.